Okay, any additions, corrections to the minutes of the last meeting? Not, they stand approved as submitted. At this time, we have public comment. This is for anybody that's not on the agenda to come before us and discuss anything. So, we know we have one. Mike, come on up to the podium. State your name and your company.
My name is Michael Gian. I owner and operator of NAB Electric in Garden City, and we came to renew our license, and they're telling us we have to do a lot, jumping through a lot of hoops to get that license because we allowed it to lapse last year. And to doing those kind of jumping through the loops to do business it slows down my business and doesn't allow I can do business until I get my license. And we have had that license for so many years. It just
How many years have you been there?
we've been there 34 years.
And you've had a license every year?
Every year, yes. Except in last year.
You didn't have one in 2013.
15.
It lapsed January 1 of the previous year, not January 1 of 2014.
Oh, it's been
15 months.
one question I had was, how much of your business is in Finney County?
I
Roughly?
say probably 25%
Is it-
in Finney County. And I would like if those kind of regulation comes up to letting us know those kind of things. I didn't get, I mean, at least I didn't get any. They say they send one, and one is not enough. And,
Is that where we don't have a cable?
Now, Mayor, if the commission's interested in taking up some consideration of waiving the requirements for a licensed contractor, Mr. Gian, at today's meeting, you need to check with Mr. Griselle, but I presume you have the authority to do that. If you would like to place it on the next meeting's agenda, and we can provide some more facts like the grandfather clause, which allowed Mr. Gian to continue operating under the license that he held without taking a test for the renewal, and the requirements that are being asked of anyone who comes in and gets that license now, having let the previous license lapse with the city. Information about others who've been in the same situation and how that's been resolved. If you'd like additional information, we can piece that together. We just can't piece that together in time for consideration at today's meeting. I would say, in general, the requirements are to go through, to get a current license is to sit for a test. Caleb can go through the details. Is to sit through a test that is an open book test. Others have been required to go through it who were in a similar circumstance. As for adequate notification, when is it enough? I think part of what you'd look at is how many people act on that each year, and I think you've seen by virtue of your past agendas that we approve dozens upon dozens of licenses of people who see fit to comply with the requirements. So,
One thing, if you didn't renew it in 2013, then you probably didn't get a notice in October of 2013, right?
Most likely. I would have to check and see on the notices, but yeah, he would have received his notice. We receive 2 notices are sent out every year, usually in October and November, and those are sent out, which he would have received that in 2012.
12. If he wasn't a licensed contractor
So
in
you weren't
2013 in the
licensed.
city of Garden City,
Then
he
we
wouldn't have
wouldn't
done
have
it.
known to send him anything.
Yeah, that's the reason you didn't get a notice in 2013,
Because you
is
weren't
because
licensed.
you weren't licensed. See, in other words, you haven't been licensed for a whole 15 months.
That is true. We missed that point, and we just the business. I mean, they do that through the business, and they drop the ball. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we need to be more friendly with the businesses rather than hindering their businesses. And I've been doing that for 34 years. It's not the first day I'm doing it.
So the only thing that you need to do is take an open book test in order to be relicensed?
And ma'am, that open book test is a 300-400 page books, which you have to practice that every part of it. We don't do every part of that book every day. We are in the electrical business. We practice the electrical part, the electric motor, and we don't do housing and most of it, this test is from the housing and all those kind of things which you won't need that.
Actually, there's a test strictly for electricians. You can be licensed strictly as an electrician. Yeah.
I understand, master electrician.
Yeah.
That's what the license we are talking
Yeah,
about.
but you don't have to do any of the other building codes, just the electrical code.
What's the logic of asking me after 34 years come give a test? Every year you become a better electrician rather than a worse.
Yeah. Most community, and I don't doubt that at all. Most of the time you're better now than you were when you first got it, probably. But the licenses on that is no different. Every community has the same licensing. There's very similar licensing requirements that. We actually allow people to grandfather in prior to us taking this. When the state of Kansas passed their licensing requirements, we went with their requirement that everyone has to be licensed, and we gave a grandfather for those before. But if you lapse, then you have to follow any of the state requirements for us licensing, which we've adopted.
In 1997, when they came in and they said they have to be taking all the tests, we did take that test again. And this is again another test. I mean, I don't know how many tests does Garden City
All we need is proof of those test passages.
So how would you find out in a block association they're out of business?
You can contact those testing sites and ask them for.
I tried that many times to do that, trying to do that, not come here. I did that, and you can't get. I mean, to me, it's just trying to jerk around the business rather than trying to work with the business. Say, how many licensed electrician in Garden City is? 50?
How many
Electricians?
Licensed electrician, 50. So if one or two of them didn't show up, they could send another letter or writing them they didn't do that, or we are not a lot of them of us in Garden City to not communicate with us. That's what I'm just saying. Communicate with us. Let us know what we need to do so we can do that. So I don't have to come here.
We'll check and verify that we sent 2 letters out in 2012. If the commission is interested in that, I would say that would account for our obligations to communicate with license holders. The requirement of the license was a decision that was made in 1997, did you say, guys?
Yes,
I do think the commission at that time, the staff at that time worked with businesses and grandfathering in those that were licensed and operating in the community at the time. The understanding at that point in time, I would presume between all parties, was that the requirement to preserve that would be to stay a licensed contractor, if that was allowed to. And so staying a licensed contractor would mean the same time every year, continuing to fill out the paperwork and let that go. If that lapsed, then what would be required to allow Mr. Gion to have a license without showing the requirements that would have been due anybody else that came in after 1997 is for the commission to take an action that says those criteria which are needed for the license are not needed for NAB Electric.
Can you find out, maybe you could check with the company that does the licensing
We can look into that and see what we can
and
find.
see if he's got a legitimate, if he passed the test.
Yeah, we just need a date.
Sometimes they'll listen to the city where they might not, it's just an individual calling in, but.
Mr. Mayor,
Let's
they
see.
should have those information already in the
Right.
records. I mean,
Right.
Garden City should have those records.
All except for the grandfathered ones, we don't. Because they were, now if you had a license where you're licensed in another community that also does it, and you can maintain your license up to date, whatever you use to get your license.
Do you
there.
have a license in any other cities?
No,
You know,
Garden City is the only one.
We'll check into it.
We'll check into it, see if we can find it.
Very
Get
good.
back with it.
Very good. I appreciate
If we can't find it, we'll reintroduce this as a business item on the next agenda,
You'll
and
get
you
it.
can consider whether or not you want to waive the requirements or not, but if we can, I mean, I think we've represented this all along, and with anybody, if you can show that you meet the requirements of the license, we'll issue the license.
Isn't there an appeals process, building board of appeals, does that fall into this? or-
No, this, because the licensing part of it is all pretty well been outlined and been used for the same way. The licensing is the same time, no time change has changed in that since, probably 15, 20 years. So,
Yeah, we'll bring it up the next meeting.
Thanks.
Okay?
Thank you very
thanks.
much.
6A,
Is there any other public comment?
any other public comment? Okay.
I'm sorry. My name is David Litton. I'm the Director of Operations for the state of Kansas with Access Financial. We work here in Garden City as Check and Go. And I've been referred to you by Master Patrol Officer Douglas Height, who I believe works under James Hawkins. And I'm coming here for, I guess, to request a waiver or something that would allow us to Section 62-10, the advertising. Basically, it's a common practice in our company. I run the entire state of Kansas. I do 27 locations across, so I'm in, you name the city, I'm pretty much there. And so we do this daily practice multiple times a week, twice a week is kind of the minimum standard of where these would be placed on vehicles, typically in private property. Basically, our practice is we go to whoever owns that parking lot, we say, hey, we'd like to partner with you. Can you provide us with some advertisement where we can attach that to our agreement of our customers? So there's a side for you, and then would you mind if I place these flyers in your parking lot today? Post-it, the company Post-it Notes, they have actually designed, these are very similar to the packing peanuts, so they're extremely biodegradable, they break down. They're not a litter hazard or anything. And we place those on the vehicles. This is something we've done. Essentially what it is we're trying to save a store that potentially is on the market for being closed in the year of 2015. In the past, I've had this happen in 3 other cities. We've been able to come and petition the city for some kind of waiver. It's been able to allow us to market our business. It allows us to grow our revenue to where we can actually maintain the store. That's really what I'm here today. So specifically, I was provided this where it says Section 62-10 says that you don't allow the marketing under motor vehicle windshield wipers, and so that's where we've been able to fix these to where they attach to the glass. They are specifically designed to handle wind and things like that, so they don't blow off. I can actually provide them to you if you want to take a look at them, but that's what we're here for today.
Yeah, I don't think it makes too much difference where you put them. It's not.
I think the intent of the ordinance was not to put them on vehicles because of the litter.
I think that's what the
It's
code
a-
section says.
It's a problem, we set a precedent, we approve you, and then somebody else comes in and they want the same thing, and then all of a sudden, why have an ordinance?
I do
We just
understand.
we just don't allow that type of advertising.
Well, and one piece to that is, the only question that I do ask is, basically, yes, absolutely. I've seen this in lots of different cities. I actually just dealt with this in Newton, Kansas. They actually were able to even appeal it because, and rewrite it. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm actually asking for a waiver. But because these are different than what the traditional marketing are, where, first of all, they do eliminate the litter problem because they are made to actually they are made to degrade.
How long do they does it take for them to biodegrade?
If there's any water applied to them, within minutes.
Okay, we've had like 3 rains in the last 18 months. So in between those rains, are they litter or are they, whether it biodegrades at some point or not?
Yeah.
If trash is in the
Sure.
street blowing all through town,
I do understand.
it's litter.
And again, I apologize. I'm not here to disagree. I do understand what you're saying. I'm basically just asking at this point is that we have a company directed to do this. We are not able to do this in Garden City, which is actually hindering our capability of maintaining our business here. That's really what it comes down to. So we're talking about 2 salaried and an hourly position that without this kind of strategy, we're also limited on any kind of visibility marketing that we can do. We're limited to a certain number of days to where we can have any kind of signage externally from the building, meaning any kind of banner that we would put up, any kind of flag that we would put up. These different things that are causing us. I'm asking for just simply something that allows us to do what we need to do to maintain those positions. I don't know any other way to word it here.
I understand where you're coming from. It's just, it sets a precedent
I do understand.
for other businesses, and, you know, they say, well, they do, why can't I do it? And it just opens up.
Well, and the one thing I will say is that I have actually spoken with, first of all, some of our competitors, you know, because we have a great relationship between the supervisors of the state. We all kind of work together. There are actions that are being done, and the difference here is that I'm actually coming to you asking if I can have permission to do it rather than, you know, breaking the city, you know, code. That's not something we want to do. So I'm actually asking if there's, you know, I guess what I'm saying is it's other people are doing it and are being, and I don't know how to word that correctly, but it is taking place. And so I'm actually asking if there's a way that we can, is there a permit that we can purchase that would allow us to do it so it doesn't open the precedent?
No.
Okay. Is there any option that I have to allow any kind of external marketing like this directly to the customer?
Any external marketing or placing something on someone else's personal property?
Not on city property. I'm specifically referring to a private property that we'd be given
about
permission to do.
But you're putting it on people's cars?
Door hangers or something like that, can you do?
Nope.
We do it for campaigns.
Yeah, it's different.
And it says you are allowed to do it for campaigns, but it doesn't allow for any kind of advertising, and that's why I'm here today. I mean, we've actually, as a company, we've looked at this. We do this across the country. I mean, in all 48 states, 49 states actually.
Garden City's different.
I agree, and that's why I'm here today.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm
We
kind
kind
of
of like that.
And I got to be honest with you, I respect the fact that you guys are that way. I mean, the fact that you even said the prayer, you know, after your meeting, I thought that was fantastic. It's what it really comes down to is that I have a business that is struggling. I have a very quick opportunity to where I can address it. I mean, I've had 4 other locations that were in the exact same spot 2.5 years ago when I took over this state. We were able to address it this way, and it's no longer an issue anymore. We were able to save those jobs. There was one other location in Winfield, Kansas, where we were not able to do that. And unfortunately, that location did close, and I'm trying to eliminate that from happening.
But we have hundreds of other businesses here in town that comply with the ordinances.
Absolutely.
And I just think if we do this, we'll open a precedence that we don't want to.
Randy, what do we need to vote on this? Or?
No. I mean, it's
Pretty much.
not his agenda. Is he making a request for a waiver of the code section so he can place
Yeah.
advertising on private
The
vehicles?
previous 2 agendas, it's been an item. We've anticipated the question. It's our opinion that what would be required to allow this to occur is to waive for this business the section of the code that relates to advertising on persons' cars. Really is irrelevant whether or not it's happening on private property or public property. In my mind, it's the point of the code is that somebody else is taking liberties, putting something on your personal property that isn't theirs to mess with. So, do we preserve the protection of that, or do we waive the requirement in this instance, which you have the authority to do?
I guess my question is, do we vote on it?
So if somebody makes a motion.
If somebody makes a motion and seconds it, you would vote on it. If nobody makes a motion to do that, then you'd move on to the next issue.
What's your desire? Commissioner? No comment? Well, in lack of I'll make a motion that we do not allow the,
The waiver.
a waiver of that ordinance for putting things on vehicles. Is there a second?
I'll second it so we can just bring it forward and vote on it and go on down the line.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we deny the request to change the waiver. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Anyone else? Public comment? Okay, 6A.
Item 6A, Daryl Hamlet, President of the Tumbleweed Festival, requests governing body consideration for the use of the West Green at Lee Richardson Zoo on August 22nd, 23rd, and 24th for the 23rd Annual Tumbleweed Festival. The request includes setup from August 18th to 23rd, tear down August 25th and 26th. This request also includes allowing volunteers to drive in gates at no charge and closing the drive-in gates during the festival to maintain safe walking areas. I believe there's the staff has met with Tumbleweed Festival to work out kind of all the global issues of the event, and are comfortable with what's being requested. Staff would recommend approval of the Tumbleweed Festival's requests.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve the request.
Or second? Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the Tumbleweed Festival's request to the zoo for August 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. B.
West Chambers, American Warrior Construction, general contractor for Pioneer Road Estates Development, requests governing body consideration to extend the deadline for the city's residential housing incentive program from the current April 23rd, 2014 completion deadline for an additional 60 days. Wes? Do you have anything more? The letter's included, I believe. Do you have anything to add to that?
Got a March 12th letter. Pretty much. You've got, what, 9 out of 13 duplexes completed?
Ready.
6 out of 17 houses. And you think in 60 days you'll be
Yes,
having
sir.
them all done?
Yes, sir.
And what this is a $3,000 per unit fee that we give the builders, encourage them to build in the city. So it amounts to several dollars.
Does only apply, if you remember the incentive, Mayor and Commissioners, it does only apply to single-family units.
Yes, not to
Not
just
The project started on the duplex side. I know that they put that 17 are leased, or the certificates of occupancy completed on the remainder.
Yeah, currently there's 15 open residential incentive programs, which are for the 15 single-family homes that American Warrior is building. And
It says 17 here.
that's the total number.
That's the total number of houses that we
Houses,
are building.
single-family
Yeah.
houses. There's 15 of them that are in the process of being completed here within the next
Yes.
little bit of time. I went through the record just to double check. This program was started in 2010. It was canceled last year because of lack of participation, and the use of the funding didn't, and the city commission voted to stop the program. There was one home back in 2011 when the program first started that was given an extension of time, and that's the only one that has been given of a total of 20 units up to this point, besides the 15 that they have open.
So they would get, for all those that do get done by the deadline, they'd get the $3,000 per unit.
Yeah, they
So how many are we talking about that you don't anticipate?
By April 23rd, we've got one finished now that we've got a CO on, and we could possibly have 2 more, maybe.
That's the CO that controls the incentive,
Right.
not the whether or not one sells. So
That's what I'm wondering is, so you'll get, without an extension, you still get 3, maybe 4.
Maybe.
And part of the program is a $3,000 incentive when they're done, and none of the homes were charged building permit fees.
Right, they've already had that waived.
Yep.
And even if they didn't make the incentive, that, they wouldn't have to come back and pay those because,
Well, actually, that's part of the program, is if they don't get them done, then they have to repay the city for the building permit
Oh, okay.
fee. So,
Well, I don't know, I think 60 days it's probably, as many, we've had some bad weather too, which hasn't helped.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure that slowed some things down,
You
so.
know, I first thought that that's a pretty aggressive timetable to start with, but you guys agreed to it.
Yeah,
You know, and then to put the meat of the winter as your, you know, or the winter as the meat of your building time, you know, that certainly had that possibility, so, but, you know, they also saw that coming in, so. You
Yeah, I
say
think
we have waived it once in the past?
For one
Or
home.
extended it, I guess?
Yeah, it was extended for one new home that was built 1610 Bluff Street.
any other commissioners want to comment?
My only comment would be is I think he's probably worked in good faith so far and trying to meet that deadline, and probably things beyond his control have controlled it. But to extend it 60 days beyond April the 23rd to give him a chance, he's not going to get them all done, but he's going to at least get part of them done. So I think that it's been good for our community to have him out there build, and I want to, if no one else has anything, I recommend that we authorize a 60-day extension.
That's a motion.
I'll make that as a motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we extend American Warrior Construction a 60-day extension for the incentive program. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion, are those against? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wes.
Thank you. Get busy.
Mr. Mark Miller, the property owner at 503 East Kansas Avenue, requests governing body consideration for a parking waiver, asking for 3 on-street spaces to be counted toward the strip center's required off-street parking requirement, or to consider the check into cash business as a retail establishment, which would require 3 spaces instead of a professional office, which requires 6 spaces.
So right now it's considered like commercial office?
No, each classification, checking cash businesses are in the same category as banks, financial institutions, is how they're classified for parking requirements. What happened on this situation is those that are familiar with the little shopping center that this is located in, where Jimmy John's is, checking the cash, and the Our Spot barber shop is located. And this happens on occasion, probably more particularly in small shopping centers where restaurants require more parking because it's based on the number of seats and that they have. And when you add a restaurant into it and 2 or 3 more businesses, it eats up your parking that's required. And of course, this was built several years ago, and they've offered up, Mr. Miller is requesting one of 2 options, and that's either waiving the requirement for the 3 spaces. The code does allow you to use spaces within 200 feet. The Rupp's Oil, which is right across the street, has already leasing them, entered into agreement to lease them 4 spaces. That leaves them still 3 spaces shy. Rupp's does have enough room to lease them the additional 3 parking spaces. However, they're requesting not to have to do that or reclassify the check and cash to another classification. This went before the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission recommendation was denial of the waiver request, 5-2, and you have the minutes from the notes there. We received 1 comment from a resident next door. They sent a letter in regards to their, and that was the only letter of opposition to the request that we had received on it. You have the full staff report in your packet if you have any questions. And
Caleb, I'm looking at this and not getting the math to work out.
You're not showing up.
The Jimmy John's by itself requires 11. Check into cash by itself would require 6 if interpreted to be professional office?
As it's classified right now, that's their required parking spots.
And that's professional office?
That is for their.
That's retail?
Retail financial
Okay.
institution.
Our spot, barber shop, 5 spots. So that adds up to 22 plus you add 1 accessibility spot. And then
The facility has 25 parking spots.
so
they have
since
a few
25 is more than 22 plus 1, why is there a problem?
They're required to have a total of 7 parking spots.
Who's
and there's the new businesses that are going into, that's what they're requesting, is there's a vacancy where Dollar Warehouse was, 3,000 square feet.
Oh,
And they're looking at putting a liquor store and a cigarette shop inside of those 2 spaces.
I got you.
Those 2 require, their parking spots for their retail use exceeds the amount that's there unless they get 3 spaces from a nearby property owner. And the only one that has additional parking spaces that they could lease out for this is Rupp's to the side of them.
I got you. So the only reason check into cash is mentioned is that in trying to get that amount, they're wanting to change the definition of what they fit under.
Historically, that strip center has only had about 2 units in it. Like, I believe Mr. Goodson's was there, and then there was a
Dollar
movie.
store.
And then it went to a dollar store and then the barber shop. And now that's going to be 5 businesses in there, and that strains the valuable parking that's there. And so they're 3 spots off. That's what the issue comes down to, is if they get 3 more spots from Rupp, then there's no waiver needed. From our understanding, they are willing to give them those 3 spots. They do have to lease them from them, but they do have those available, which would meet the code, which no waiver would be required. Or you would waive the requirement for those 3 parking spots. They would still be required to have the 4th. Or you waive the requirement to change the...
Employees could actually park in the street.
Right. Well, that's one of the issues. Is that there's only actually 2 parking spaces on the street that you could actually fit 2 cars on, and the neighborhood. We received a letter from the residents that live just down the street is where the complaints come, because it's difficult to get out at that intersection anyway with the cars parked on both sides of the street, and at certain peak times, commercial areas, that's a busy street, Kansas.
I think if there's a solution that doesn't require a waiver, that seems reasonable as far as I know. Yeah, it's going to cost them some money, but, you're in business and these are the requirements. So I don't see the need for the waiver. If there was no 3 spots across the street, then, it'd be a little bit different discussion. And I guess I wonder too, I would, if you'd asked me, I'd have said a check into cash is retail and not a professional office, but I'm not a planning and zoning guy, so.
Yeah. It falls under the same as the banking financial institutions, is what they're classified as, and that's what we've classified all of them in the banks.
Those existing businesses, I've never seen that parking lot full yet. Every time I drive by.
It's only been really packed when, usually the restaurant fills most of it when it is full, and the barbershop has a lot of people at once. That's usually, but that's with it being empty in the middle, and
Right.
you add those 2.
Now, that's going to change it.
Yeah. So.
Well,
I move that we deny the waiver.
for a second.
Second.
We moved and seconded that we deny the waiver of the property at 503 East Kansas Avenue. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. (7A), we have
Public Works Director Sam Curran has provided information for the governing body's review concerning the 2014 spring cleanup program. There's an attached map, I believe, and the rules of the program. The rules haven't changed any. We'll start on the 31st of March in the northeast corner and then begin progressing through the town as shown on this map. Those familiar with the program will know that the date of the month is the number in the different squares. So this is a Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday would be used to sort of go back through and pick up misses, otherwise known as, oh my gosh, they were in my neighborhood yesterday and I forgot to put something out. And we'll go back through and pick those up and then do the same thing the following week, the 7th through the 10th. Because of some of the equipment that we've devoted towards this in the past, sometimes we're able to kind of get in ahead of schedule a little bit for people that have set stuff out in advance. And so a lot of times that second week is just kind of going back all through the city and getting the different pockets. But still our intent is to hit each of those neighborhoods on that date, but we may hit other neighborhoods as well. Anything you want to add, Sam, if he's in here? Nope. Okay. Item B, the city has received its annual royalty check in the amount of just short of $4,300 from Service Line Warranties of America. This is the program that we partnered with to provide some coverage for that which isn't covered under homeowners nor the city's insurance, but is part of the service on the owner's side. There are others that provide similar service. I do know that probably expect another series of letters going out. It's I guess we've been through it now for a year or 2 years, year and a half. There has been use of the program. I believe the stats we receive are around 200 subscribers, about 70. Well, why don't you give the numbers?
I think, Matt, so far they've had, at least what was reported to us, there were 733 people that signed up for it, and there was 28 claims against that insurance, and supposedly all of the results were either rated good, excellent, or really good. So apparently it's working well for those that chose to use it.
Item C is our staff reports. You'll also see a letter that was written by the city to Home Depot's corporate offices letting them know that we believe the life of the incentive program we did 10 years ago has expired. We've reimbursed them the full amount of the sales tax increment financing strategy that we used to do that. So that's nice to be on the to have concluded that, and it was definitely successful by the standard of will they generate enough to trigger the incentive, and they certainly did. I think 10 years later we can also say that the strategy was successful in doing what it intended to do community-wide, and that was generate some regional retail interest in this community. So, kind of nice to look back on that and this anniversary of that project. So if there aren't any questions on the letter or the staff reports, just call your attention to the meetings of note. RSVP with Celine for anything you've got an interest in. With that, I think we're ready for the appropriation ordinance, which if approved would be ordinance number 2360-2014A.
And I'll make a motion that we approve the appropriations ordinance number 2360-2014A.
There a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the appropriations ordinance 2360-2014A. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 9A is consideration of of a resolution which would authorize the 2014 Schulman Crossing Phase 1 tax increment financing bond sale for April 15th. Financial advisor Chuck Woolley has provided the financial advisory services agreement with George K. Baum and Company for the governing body's consideration and approval. So these would be two separate actions. The first, if approved, would be resolution number
2574-2014.
And that's the resolution doing the tax increment financing bonds in the principal amount of $10,750,000.
Okay, I'm entertaining a motion.
I move that we approve Resolution 2574-2014.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2574-2014.
The second item is,
Items.
oh, I'm sorry, did I?
Yeah, we need to vote.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll wait for that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, number 2.
The second item is the financial advisory services agreement with George K. Baum and Company. This is required to continue having George K. Baum being the group, the company, and specifically with Chuck Woolley being the firm that does the bond counseling services for us, and the financial advisory. Mary Carson's our bond counsel. This is the financial advisory services, and they would place the bonds.
I move that we approve the financial advisory services agreement with George K. Baum and Company.
Is there a second?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve financial advisory services agreement with George Baum and Company. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 10A, the governing body is asked to consider an amendment to lease and operations agreement between Sharif Delovi and the City of Garden City for the leased premises known as Napoli's Flight Deck Restaurant. This was a carryover from the previous meeting. Since that time, the airport board has revisited this item, and I'll let Rochelle fill you in on the details.
As the commission requested, the Airport Advisory Board requested more information from Mario. Mario provided his 2012 and 2013 financial revenues, and there is a graph that shows kind of the fluctuation. There's about approximately a $12,000 difference from 2012 sales to 2013 sales that he represented as the reason why he needed a reduction of rent. So the advisory board reviewed it again, but they did not feel that it justified the request for reduction in rent. Therefore, they denied the request for the second time.
And so if the governing body supports the recommendation of the advisory board, that would be a denial of the request to adjust the agreement. Or I guess the other way would be if you support the adjustment of an agreement, the commission would need to specify what that is and deny the recommendation of the advisory board.
Any comments? They pay $1,000.
I had to kind of run the numbers too, and why it was down a little bit this year, and, I don't see where that warrants reduction in the lease.
Well, and especially since we're paying the utilities.
Well, if you look at the graph now, it looks like there's been an improvement for the last several months, I think.
Well, I also note that, he doesn't seem to have it's so different each year, the 2 years. And, who knows if that's weather or what might cause that, I would move to deny the request to adjust the lease.
Is there a
Second that.
Moved and seconded that we deny his request, Flat Deck Restaurant, to reduce the rent. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
All right.
Item 11A, Ronaldo Mesa on behalf of Ambrose, Sammy, and K&S LLC, owner of the Clarion Inn and Sleep Inn, has requested vacation of Kansas Plaza on the south and east sides of the property to accommodate a parking lot expansion at the Clarion Inn. I'll let Caleb and Ronaldo speak to this here in a little bit. I'm going to set this issue up a little bit to give some background to it. Prior to the construction of the Sleep Inn, staff had done what it's done on a couple of other occasions for some other businesses in town, broached the topic of a vacation of right-of-way that the use of which was debatable. And I think that idea was kind of out there for a little while and then has regained life just recently and in the form of this request. We haven't really talked through the specifics. I think Mr. Mesa will go through the request and some of the intent. But I think at this particular location all along, we thought, because of the proximity of the drainage ditch and the high vehicle traffic intersection, at some point in time this would be a good location for some sidewalk and trail improvements consistent with what we've been doing in the area. And also the idea of some enhanced landscaping, public art, those types of things have sort of been out there and loosely defined, but previously mentioned and also mentioned to these gentlemen when we talked about this concept. If this is something the Commission's interested in pursuing further, there's a couple of things that I think need to be done. I think just as kind of due diligence, better understanding the level of investment the city's got in improvements, the history of ownership of the property and how was the right-of-way created and what happens when you vacate something, and better understanding that, coming up with an idea of if there were public improvements on this, what would the Commission be interested in seeing? Would it be trail, enhanced landscaping, public art, those types of things? And then figuring out sort of if there's enough interest to do separate deals, private does private, public does public, or do we look for some public-private partnership to get something that they're looking to achieve in this area as well as something that we would be looking to achieve in this area. So that's sort of the background of why the issues was originally breached or presented to this group. In the past, we've had similar discussions with the hospital, similar discussions with Western Motor. We think there's a number of locations around town where we could probably dump some right-of-way was part of an urban design concept from 40 or 50 years ago that really isn't necessary anymore. Probably not options that are available to everybody, but in some different locations where we believe we've got a little bit of excess right-of-way. That could start going back to being privately held and some beneficial use coming from it. And in some instances, maybe like this, some public use coming out of it. So that I'll turn it over to Ray and they can address their specific request.
Yeah, I'm here on behalf of Ambrose Sammy, and that is the requesting the city to vacate the road that runs south and east of the Clarion. It's Mr. Sammy's intent to improve that area, extend the parking lot, resurface the parking lot, probably new striping and so forth, but also to provide a walkway, pathway, if you will, that will already complement the area. Also to improve the landscaping in and out of the perimeter of the business. And so we feel like if we can work something out with the city, we think we can improve that, and it's going to be aesthetically good for not only the patrons, but I believe the community will use that quite a bit, especially if that pathway is built on the backside of Kansas Avenue and almost connects. You've got a walk coming down from that intersection already, and I could see it connecting to that walk where people have been crossing to get over to the Quick Shop or over to the community college. We'll take that walk all the way around the perimeter. And plus, with the growth that he's put in place now, it will certainly help him because the number of hotel rooms have increased and meeting space has increased. So we feel like this is win-win. He's also interested in possibly building a berm on the south east corner of that and possibly put some type of signage or monument and with the city's logo. So we're going to look at all those things, but he's also improving internally the building as well. There'll be some improvements to the exterior of the Clarion with stucco and stone. So it's just not that area, it's the entire area that he's looking to improve.
Is that a 40-foot right away? I think I saw that.
40-foot driveway?
Right away.
Right away. It appears, I was driving it today, Mayor, and it looks like it's about 40 foot. All of that. Steve-O should know that answer.
It's 40 on the east side, 35 on the south.
And this would be put back on the tax rolls?
Yes. Yeah, all of the right-of-way was provided by, at that time, the developers of the Hilton Inn. So they're entitled, when you vacate right-of-way, it goes from whence it came, so it reverts back to them in this situation.
We haven't provided any of the funding.
We funded half of the construction of the road. And the developer provided the other half, and in 19 whatever dollars that was
77.
Yeah, 77,000. That was matched by the developer to put in the same road. So.
And that was in 77?
I think the project's a good project there on that corner. I think reverting it back, we don't need that street all the way around. The only concern I heard from the community is that we're giving Sammy something, and you're going to hear that a lot. Anytime somebody figures they're getting something more than someone else, it's going to come up. And my suggestion is that it says we may request compensation. I would, of the $84,000. I would like to see you take that over and above what you're going to put into your facility down there in that area, and maybe use that for some art within the city, downtown, wherever. Donate that to the art facility, the art for the city. I think would be a good gesture on your part to
right there on that corner.
Yeah, even there too. But something that you can say that I gave back. You didn't give this for free, and it certainly will look nice.
I think we can work on that. I mean, all of us, our goal is, as you know, it's been really being part of the community. So that's something we can work on, the details of it. And that jogging area or the sidewalk that we're going to put is going to tie up to our jogging trail too behind the car wash. It's all going to be lit.
Tally trail.
Yeah, trail. And you know,
Sure enough, that's a walking trail.
if I walk on it.
A slow walking.
I think it will be safer even to have the community walking on the inside than being on the outside of the road. So, but yeah, I'll be glad to.
Okay, the only other thing I would have is that I know you have had the Battle of the Bands thing at that corner, and if you continue to do that, I wouldn't push that out to that southeast corner any farther than what you have, because you already got enough traffic out there, and if you slow it down with people looking at the Battle of the Bands, it may create a problem. So if you can just push that back up where it was before, it'd probably be all right.
Okay.
Do you have some plans drawn up what this
We
is going to
haven't
look
started
like?
yet. We just want to come with you first. Then we're going to be working with Steve Cottrell and his team and our architect to see the best fit for everybody. And then we'll turn it into Caleb. So we're really, today was just the first part of the project.
The vacation would only come with the adoption of I believe, an ordinance. It has to be done by ordinance, right? So I think there's a final test and that that would have to meet the commission's review at some point of what are the terms of what we're going to do with this roadway. And the intent of today's agenda item was, I know we list as alternatives for accepting the vacation request or denying it. I think probably more of what we're looking for is, does staff move ahead and continue to work on this concept with the property owner in preparing an ordinance for your consideration at the next meeting, or, you know, that could possibly take longer than between now and the next meeting, but we begin moving forward in this direction. I think coming up with, I'm not sure the cost of what the city invested in 1970 whatever is an appropriate way to determine the value of the property. I think we're also gathering some information, may have gathered already, some information from the appraiser, yeah, of what, you know, what would the appraiser appraise this property at? Granted,
I have those numbers.
What is it?
The land is appraised at 90,000 and the asphalt at 93.
For that strip.
For
So could, yeah, for that
83.
L, backwards L shape.
J,
So.
yeah.
So kind of coming up with some different ways of calculating value, and you could get in an argument in an empty room over what's the value of a piece of land that only has one or two uses. It's either a road or it's a parking lot. So who else are your buyers? So we'll put that range on there, and then I think kind of next to that, sort of a list of public improvements with some estimates of cost of what those improvements that would be of public value. And I think walkway, enhanced landscaping, and public art are the ones that have been identified. And, you know, could there be some agreement between, okay, this is the land value, but these are the improvements that would be made. If we go straight sale, there's no motivation to do those public improvements right away. I mean, we'll retain an easement, could come in there at some point in time and do it ourselves. It's probably going to be several years down the road when, for the same dollar, if the arrangement is we'll vacate the right of way, these improvements everybody agrees to be will be made within the next however many months or a couple of years or whatever it is, that's the consideration for the vacation of the roadway. So we can try to work with them to frame up something like that, but right now there's a lot of moving parts, I think, and we would want to know that before we invest some time and energy in that, we'd want to know that the commission is at least interested enough to get it to the next hash mark.
And I had a call too, and a big part of the concern was, is this fixing a parking problem that wasn't addressed during the construction of sleep-ins? So my question is, do you currently meet parking requirements for both businesses?
Yeah. You know, it's gonna, as we grow with our convention center, we are going to need the more parking. We have plenty of parking, but as our conventions grow, as my traffic grow, then we're going to need it.
Right.
And as you look at it, I mean, the traffic in that road is not, I mean, it's not as...
So that dispels that concern that
yes, sir.
The city didn't do their job up front, or the
No,
developer
we
wasn't.
haven't.
Yeah, I'm not saying, I'm just saying that was somebody, you know, wondered if it's just fixing a problem that
There may have been a parking waiver granted as part of the development agreement, but it wasn't abnormal from what we consider on other projects. And, you know, parking has actually gone the reverse direction in recent years, as opposed to parking to high water mark. But any parking demands or requirements, so what are the events and how many events have there been that have caused parking to happen out in that outer ring?
Well, and that
You know,
was fine.
the presidential candidate that came, and they're parked anywhere in, you know, within a half-mile radius of the site. The only other events that kick parking out on the public street that I know of would have been the first or second year of the Battle of the Bands, because part of the parking lot was taken up. Beyond that, you know, maybe a wedding, people are parking there for convenience, so they don't have to park on the other side of the parking lot. But I don't remember the parking lot
Yeah,
exceeding
and that's fine.
capacity.
Christmas parties, it was cars
So-
were
so
everywhere.
this-
Sleep pretty full.
Yeah.
Sleeping has their own parking.
And it was considered separately, and it meets the
Yeah.
parking on its own, right?
Yes, sir.
One
Well,
per-
I'm just, like I said, I think this is for the public consumption, that
Yeah.
that this isn't what's, going on here. And personally, I don't have any problem with it. It does a lot for everybody, it looks to me like, and so I'm very good with moving forward with it, but I just wanted to address a few of these concerns that I heard, and those people can, take what they've heard if they are reading the paper later or whatever happens here, and get back with us or whatever they need to do.
Two people stopped by my shop and I received a phone call, and they were against this project. One was because of the traffic with the restaurants along that strip, especially people with trailers that getting in there is fine, leaving is sometimes an issue with, and one was, okay, so if we do this at this location, can I take over the frontage road at my location?
I would say if they have a frontage road, depending on the location, we may be looking at the place. Again, this isn't the first time we've broached this with a business, so now not everybody wants to take advantage of it. Not everybody wants to spend the money necessary to turning the road portion into a parking lot is going to involve a little bit more than painting white stripes. It's going to be a total reconstruct and that type of thing. So I think there could be other locations around town, whether it's frontage road or just a road where the only thing on either side of it, which is a big factor in this one, the only thing, it's the same owner on this side and the same owner on this side. What's the public use of the road? It's a publicly funded driveway.
I just wanted to voice what the issues what were brought to me.
I had one call is all. It was against it.
And the other one was similar to Melvin's deal, so I'm not opposed to moving forward. I just, so that the public feels that this is a fair and equitable arrangement.
I think this is a little bit different than just a frontage road in front of, like Kansas Plaza. That serves several different businesses. This road basically doesn't really, there's no driveways to it. You can't get from the parking lot to it, which I thought.
Just, yeah.
Well,
just one end that was north.
You would maintain that, I assume.
The other thing that will help us too, we deal with some companies that they do bring bigger semi-trucks. And that's going to help me, during the week or some of these if they're working, and we got in trouble before because they parked on the Cox side. So this is we'll be able to offer to our bigger companies and their guests their semi-trucks. During the week when I don't have events, they can park. They used to park on the sleep-in side on my dirt behind the aquarium. But with me making that expansion, I can be able to take care of some of my guests that do have the bigger semi-trucks too in one section of the parking. So it will be a win-win for us too.
Steve has a comment.
Okay, Steve.
You have a comment there?
Yeah, just come up here. We want to know who you are.
Who I am, what I'm doing, when I need to leave. Steve Dyer, Chamber President for Garden City. I just want to make a comment. There was a comment made about a call of, well, is Sammy getting something? And my angle on that is, there's Sammy and other business, entrepreneurs in Garden City and Finney County. It needs to be looked at as, the creativity of figuring out how to work the space different, or whatever the issue is. I think some people are maybe looking at that the wrong way. It's actually, we should support people like him and others in the community that are doing things that are more creative and finding ways of not only making it better for their business, but also the community. They're offering to improve the landscaping and put trails in and everything else. They could just say, hey, we just need that for a parking lot, and we'll pay you so amount of money and it's ours. But they're not willing to do that. They're willing to go an extra mile. So that would just be my comment, from a business standpoint, and appreciate the creativity that they're bringing to the table. So that's all.
Okay, thanks. Is there anybody else in the audience that wants to comment on this?
Sorry about that. I'm Kim Enderlead, and I'm not speaking as the director of the CVB here. I'm speaking as a citizen of Garden City. That person who called complaining that, hey, we're giving Sammy something, I wonder if that person's called to complain, hey, Sammy's giving us something. From donations out at Buffalo Dunes for kids golf to sponsorships of tournaments, again, for kids. This man always puts his money where his mouth is, and I wonder if your caller does the same.
Thank you. Okay. Well, do we need a motion on this, or do you want to just basic?
Yeah, a motion to direct staff to continue to work and prepare for governing body's consideration of vacation of right-of-way. And, knowing that we will do as part of that I think for the due diligence and your financial responsibility to all the citizens, you need to determine a value of the land, determine an expectation of what you expect in return, even if you define that what you want in return is nothing. But I just think you all have an obligation, it sounds like you understand, you do, have an obligation to evaluate that when considering it, and not just off the cuff say, yeah, we know this is our property, but you can have it. So, well, a motion to direct staff to prepare the necessary documents to vacate the right-of-way.
So moved.
I'll second it.
We moved and seconded that we prepare the documents, vacate the road in Kansas Plaza, I guess it's, what is it? The road out in front of, it's East Kansas Plaza. Kind of hard, in front of the Clarion. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Mayor, thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Item 11B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a cost-sharing program for the necessary outside engineering for Towns Riverview's water main extension project. The amount would be $20,600. And Mike's here and Fred's here to talk to this issue.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, back in November of 2013, the City Commission gave authorization to move forward of a request from Mr. Towns for consideration to extend a water main out to his subdivision. Since that time, we've been working with Mr. Towns on trying to come up with an estimate on how we would get there, do we have enough water to do it, how he would use the water, etc. And we've now come to the point where Mr. Towns has an engineering estimate of $20,600 to do the engineering design for the water main, and has asked for consideration if you would split the cost with him 50%, so the city's cost would be $10,300 should you choose to approve that. Staff did recommend approval only based upon the fact that we're going to more than likely oversize that main. It could be that Mr. Towns only requires a 6-inch water line to serve his property, but planning for the future, we will more than likely recommend it to oversize that to an 8 or a 10 or a 12-inch line to be able to serve additional properties as it goes. And that will cause some additional costs in the normal engineering study. So I know Mr. Towns is here and his group. Should you have any questions or any questions that I can answer, we'll try.
Any questions? What did we do on Johnson? Did we participate in that?
We did participate in the engineering costs. However, well, same thing. Mr. Johnson, he paid his costs associated with all of the engineering and the construction associated with, if we'd only put a 6-inch line to his subdivision, he paid that cost. The city paid the cost to oversize that main because we wanted to be able to use it for future services.
Yeah, but that was just for the pipe, basically. What about the engineering?
The engineering, Gerald did that as well. I believe that was rolled into the total project cost. The total project cost, I believe, was $260,000. It was $130,000 each, and that covered the engineering design. We did spend a little bit more on the engineering because initially it was KDHE thought we had to put in some booster pumps in order to keep the pressure proper up to the rental property at the top of the hill. However, that changed, and all we had to do was change the title of the, instead of a water distribution main, it became a water transmission main, and the pressure that we delivered to the top of the hill was adequate. So we may have had a little bit more expense in that, Mr. Mayor.
What's your feeling?
I think it's money well spent.
Hopefully we'll have some other people
Yeah,
tie into
potential additional business in the future.
Because they are paying
There's a lot of
double.
people, there's a lot of people out in that area now that may take the advantage of tying in, so I think it's a good thing.
Does this include both parts of Towns Review?
Yes.
The lower south and the upper?
Yep, yep.
So how many potential customers is down there? Is that?
Customers and meters. 250s
Yeah.
meters, 800 population approximately.
Right, no, I guess I mean meters, yeah. Individual lots. And at that point, would they be required to, would they have access to both your current water system and then the new water system, or how's that going?
Dillon, why don't you come up, speaking to the mic?
We probably discussed this, but I'm just trying to refresh.
No, that's fine. The engineering design that is planned is that we, the city, will deliver water to one master meter at a determined location, just like we did with Stuart Johnson. And then Mr. Towns will take our water and more than likely put it in some sort of water tank. And then he'll take some of his water from his wells and mix it with our water and then distribute it. But you can talk about all that.
Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 options. I can either run some more line of my own, bring both my wells to a central point, put up a tower, bring city water into that tower, blend my water, and take water out of that tower for my distribution. Or I can shut my wells off and buy all my water from the city, which I may still have to run another line or more line to get adequate pressure at the far end, because I'm a mile and a half to there in my distribution. So I'm stuck on up in there about what I'm gonna do from the master meter.
Is your water, you have any problems with it? I mean, is it contaminated at all? Or?
Just uranium, very slight uranium problem. Other than that, I got no problem.
And with this line, where would this line run? Is it out on the highway? Or?
It ties in right there on the south side of the highway, just east of H&H Trailer Park.
Yeah.
Runs up parallel Highway 50 to Farmland Road, down Farmland Road just over the hill, and then straight east to the north side of my Towns Review.
Okay. So it.
How many feet?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
35 or 40 foot, wasn't it? I'm thinking.
Yeah.
How many feet?
It's close to 2 miles, a little over
10,000.
And 2 miles. Yeah.
And that's, there's quite a few residences.
There's a lot of potential customers between point A and point B along farmland.
And these people do pay the double rate, right?
Yes, sir.
Since they're out of the city limits. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Towns? Entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the cost sharing for the engineering for the Towns Review Water Main Extension Project.
Your second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded that we share the cost 50%, which would be $10,300 for the engineering of the Towns Review Water Main. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay.
Item 11C is also Mike's item. This is a request for the governing body to enter into an electrical engineering general services agreement with SEGA.
SEGA.
I pronounce it Sega, but
SEGA.
it's a misspent child.
I do too. They reminded me quickly that they're not a game.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yes, Mr. Mayor and Commission, what this is a authorization to move forward with the general services agreement. This is just their master contract that says these are the types of services we would provide. That takes a authorization from you to move forward with that. It doesn't authorize any work to go forward of anything yet. Should we choose to hire SIGA to do something, that would come back to you for consideration in some sort of a task order or project number 1 or project number 2. We would bring those forward at that time. SIGA is the engineer on the Jameson Energy Center, and so they have a in-depth knowledge of our electrical system right now. And we kind of, if need be, we would like to be able to use them in the future.
Are they coming to completion out there, or what's the status?
Yeah, the first turbine, trying to remember from yesterday, the first turbine will be tested on April 16th. The first they test it without any load on it, they just run the engine. And then a few days later, they'll test it under load. And then the other 2 turbines will follow 2 to 3 weeks after the first one. So the intent is by May 15th, everything will be operational and be ready to put into service if need be.
Okay.
I'd move to approve authorize the agreement for SIGA Engineering General Services Agreement.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve a general service agreement with SIGA. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Police citizens.
9D, Mayor and Commissioners, Police Chief Hawkins recommends Melena Johnson be accepted to serve on the Police Citizen Advisory Board.
I think it's wonderful that someone who's been in town for such a short time wants to invest their time and energy also into serving on an advisory board. That's great.
We want to make a motion.
I move that we approve
Linda?
Melania Johnson to serve on the
Police
Citizens Advisory Board.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve Melina Johnson to be on the Police Citizens Advisory Board. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
It's nice to see she's a graduate of the Citizens Academy, too.
Yes.
Mayor, there's no other items for consideration other than those listed under the consent agenda. Actually, did we have, I think you made a request, Commissioner, to pull one of these off.
The Windsor.
Okay, item E3, that's been requested that be pulled off, so we'll take that separately. So the consent agenda would be E1, 2, and 4A.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items 1, 2, 3, or correction, 1, 2, 4, and A.
I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda E1 through 4A and leave out 3. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item E3, the governing body's asked to consider and approve bids received at 2 p.m. on March 13th for the renovation project at the Windsor Hotel. The request includes authorization for the mayor and city clerk to execute the contracts. And Steve, you can kind of go over the history of how we got here.
I don't think we want to stay that long, but
all right, Cliff Notes first.
we finally had a successful bid opening last week. KDOT, they have received the information in a preliminary nature, and based on your action today, I will make a formal request to award the contract. But,
we basically are just doing
we are essentially a pass-through conduit for the Fayette County Preservation Alliance.
We're not,
All of the local match required for this project is from them, from various sources, whether it's, they got some money from the Finney County Historical Society, another grant from the Lois Walls Foundation. They're going to sell tax credits and some other things. So all of the local financial contribution to this project is from Preservation Alliance. The city's only cost is what little
Your
time I
time.
have in administrating.
The question I had was, between the KDOT funding and the $180,000 that Preservation Alliance has funds for, the organization is still short $133,000 to pay for this project.
I believe that they do have some cash over and above the 180 from the other grant, and the intention is to sell tax credits to make up the balance. There's always the possibility that that would not happen, but if that were the worst case, then the Preservation Alliance would be looked at to make up the difference in some other fashion.
are they prepared to do that?
Yes. Yeah, they're extremely confident that that this is a valid project at this level of contribution on their end, and they're recommending to proceed as well.
That answer your question?
It's a
More
little
or less.
scary.
Not the way your budget works.
Not the way my budget works.
Well, what's alternative, alternate number 5 is $9,000.
Well, the way the bids were set, you take the deducts in order 1 through 7. So if there's a concern about their ability to pay for things, you would start at 1 notch lower than what I've recommended. And then once they have provided proof of financial backing for the balance, we could add that by change order. But as I indicated, Don Harness is extremely confident that this is doable at that 313,000 level.
300.
Well, the total local match of 300.
And they have 180 for sure.
I think right now if I recall, Commissioner, they've got close to 100,000 in cash and other ready reserves in addition to the 180. So they're extremely close to that full amount. So that's why Don was confident that they would be able to proceed. And that's why we made the recommendation we did.
Okay, any other questions? Not, I'd entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the
E3,
bids be accepted, the bid be accepted.
$924,423.
Mhm.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve, I guess it's the Wilson Group Incorporated, bid for $924,423 for partial remodel of the Windsor Hotel. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And I do think KDOT is looking at trying to provide about an extra 18 to 20,000 because of the increase that went from January to now.
Oh, good.
So I think that they'll get even closer.
Okay, I guess we're up to commissioner reports, and it's Commissioner Dale. What can you share with us?
I'm pretty speechless today. I'll just pass.
Okay, who's next? Commissioner Dahl?
I don't have anything either.
Commissioner Law?
Man, I feel the pressure now.
Give it to you.
Well, there's no doubt lots of great things to talk about. I don't have anything specific other than we kind of finished up our goal setting this morning in the pre-meeting, and that's a good process. Sometimes it's, it's not the most fun to try and whittle stuff down, but it was between staff and commissioners, it was a good 2-day deal, and glad we'll get something to work from moving forward. So.
Okay. The only thing I have is we are going to Washington DC. Commissioner Cessna, Ashley, Matt,
Rochelle,
myself,
Neil.
Michelle. So we'll be back Tuesday or Wednesday, most of us. The one thing that I had was good news. If you noticed, the sales tax for Garden City for February, which basically is December numbers, was $575,307. That's the highest 1 month we've ever had. So that's good news. Over $500,000, and that doesn't count the portion we get from the county and the other, but that's just the 1%. But that's good news. That's all I have. Anything else?
Yes, sir.
We're adjourned, 2:27.